Okay, so wrapping up last class, I feel like we spent a lot of time talking about klipot, but it gets layered, so I wanted to make sure everyone understands it. So we're gonna do a little intro. So we live in a perfect ecosystem, okay? Everything happens the way it needs to happen, and everything happens to move us forward so that we can get light, okay? Get the fulfillment, have the happiness, have the health, have the right karagad, right? Have whatever that you want to have, that you need to have. Everything works in a way to move you forward. Part of that is to grow yourself, right? So in order for us to get light, what do we need?
To earn it.
Yes, how do you earn it? You need a challenge. So the challenge comes in. What are your choices?
Reactive.
Yes, you could either be proactive or reactive. When you're proactive, you get the light. Great, you leveled up. What happens if you're reactive? Okay, what happens? The light comes in, it feels good, the curtain falls, the law of bread of shame, you didn't earn it. You lose the light. Where does that light go? Yes, it goes to Satan, it goes into the impure system, it goes into a shell, right? So imagine you have these silos, you have these shells, the shells of anger, shells of this, and the more you feed those, the stronger they get. So what happens afterwards? When you have a lot of shells in anger, you have a lot of shells in impatience, it's almost like you don't have free choice anymore, right? Because that area becomes so strong that it makes it harder for you to be able to make your own decision. You become a slave to the klipot. You become a slave to those habits. Okay, so if I were to ask you guys, what do you think the world is? Like what percent of the world, of our actions in general, not just people who take Kabbalah or who are enlightened or Buddhists, but the whole world, what percent do you think is positive and what percent is negative?
I would say half-half.
Okay. That's very generous.
I'd say 89 is negative.
Yeah, I'd say more negative
Mostly
than positive.
negative.
60-40.
Okay, so it's probably closer to the 80s.
Wow.
Okay, negative. Yeah, it's probably closer to the 80s. So what happens is when we're around all of that negativity, we created all these klipot. What happens? Your external light, your outer light affects your inner light. Remember we spoke about that? If you're around all that negativity, you are going to become more negative. Right?
By association.
Just by association. That's why we were talking about who you hang out with is so important. We've layered on layers of external and internal light because it affects you. Who you're with affects you. Even standing next to someone, their energy affects you. So when you're in the world, and now ideally it's 50-50, it's going towards 80-20, what happens? What happens? You become more and more negative. What happens in the universe? We have to have free will. So what happens? Something gets triggered. We've mentioned this before. I'll say it again. Imagine like a valve in the world. Like, you know how the thermostat works? When it gets to like, if I put it on 73 degrees, what happens when it gets to 73 degrees? It turns on. So my house will never be hotter or colder or whatever than the degree that I put it on. When the negativity of the world, because of the accumulation of all the klipot that we have personally, collectively, on a global scale, gets to a certain point, the homeostasis gets triggered in a way such that pain and suffering comes into the world. Natural disaster, disease, things come in. Things happen. That happens. Why does that happen? The reason that happens is to wake us up so that we can move back down. Okay? So when you have these klipot, what are your options? Your options are to work on it yourself proactively, right? To go after it. That's why we say, pause, what a pleasure. What a pleasure that my karagad is leaving, right? And I'm gonna learn whatever lesson I need to learn through something like that, rather than something else. Yes?
But is it the right thing to, so if you're consciously thinking that, okay, I'm going to be proactive for the things that trigger me or
Correct.
anger or whatever it is, am I thinking that, okay, I'm doing this for my own internal or for the external?
Both.
So I
So-
have to also consciously be thinking that this
Very
is for
much
the-
so. So that I love that you asked that.
Because right now, since I've been taking these classes, it's been about internal.
I love that you asked that. So when I prepare for these classes, I pull from different sources. And one of the sources I pull from is very focused on me. And the teacher that I check everything with told me to make it a point to say that this is a global phenomenon. So
who am I? Like, who am I in this whole picture?
you're a co-creator of God. You have a spark
So
of God. You're a
so-
co-creator. Your consciousness
So our goal
matters.
is to consciously be thinking that too.
Yeah, when you're doing this, what does it mean when you hear like Chabad and they're like one more mitzvah? What does that mean when they say like every mitzvah builds the Beit HaMikdash? Like I never understood that as a kid. I was like, what are they talking about? Do you get it now?
Yeah.
We're bringing this light into the world, and when you get to a certain point,
Is there a bigger picture? Like, meaning,
yes,
like, is that the whole theory of, when everybody gets to this point, the Messiah will come? Or is
yes,
that totally.
that's exactly it.
Like, is the goal that everyone gets to maybe be 50-50 and then.
That's
I don't-
exactly it. So
Yeah.
you get to a point. Okay, so yes, a little bit of a tangent, but that is the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is that humanity, our whole consciousness, moves forward to a place where we cleave with the light, where we're united with the light. What does that mean? It means we work on these things that separate our body and our soul, or our soul with your soul, or our soul with the Creator. Right? It's all klipot. It's all those tikkuns that are stuck in there. When you work on those, you're creating this elevation, and it's through that elevation that we bring on the Messianic era, that you bring on the age of Aquarius, you bring on Mashiach, whatever you want to call it. Different spiritual organizations call it different things, but it's all the same. It's this like, you're united with the endless. Okay, so back to this. So the curtain falls, what's going on? You have the klipot. Where did I leave off? Okay, pain and suffering. So we say pause, what a pleasure, because it's a pleasure that I have an opportunity to work on and cleanse and break that shell and remove that trapped light from that shell from when I was reactive and take it back for myself. Because all of those shells, imagine it's blocking me from connecting to my soul. Right? It's blocking me from cleaving to the Creator, from being one with the Creator, which is our ultimate purpose, to be aligned with the Creator. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Give me a minute. Okay, what I want you guys to do, and I'm gonna give you literally 30 to 45 seconds to just talk to your neighbor next to you quickly. Think of a time in your life where you had a painful situation. Okay, it could be a death, it could be a divorce, it could be an illness, it could be anything. Think of that painful situation and what you may have learned from it. Go.
It's about so I guess very painful situations that I learned, like he was such a he had such a difficult right? And that's my mom and him I did a lot, culturally environment with God. I saw the love that she had for him, and that was like really strength that she really was his biggest partner. So I wasn't that made me learn a lot about my dad and like how our judgment, not only we think is right or wrong,
My grandmother, she was 89 years ago, but what I've learned is I always like to think of her in that situation. She comes in my mind, so it's like that legacy, I guess.
yeah, it's amazing how you don't think you're such a big person like her, and they did have such an effect on you.
We chose each other for the
Right, that make you think I make from last week. Because she's like, I don't know, sometimes when You don't remember last week that we were talking about? No, so randomly, like when I'm going to take my son
It's like right to my finger.
especially like, I don't know how I was like,
You know, but yeah. But I would say that the worst thing because I'm a kid, that's all I do is break up.
is your grandma?
It's such a hard one. You know, oh yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So if you had a moment in the past that was like a trigger or a negative thing, and you clearly pre-Kabbalah never said
Yes.
positive.
I love that you
trigger,
asked.
You said, "Holy shit, life sucks." right?
Yes.
Can you still correct that?
Okay. So I'm going to tell you how you correct that. Who can remember from last week how we can break klipot? So if she was reactive and she has a klipa of whatever, being ungrateful, whatever it is, can you go back and take back that hostage light? Yes. How?
You work on that same issue,
Scenario.
Yes.
same thing that happened,
Yes.
that trapped it at first.
Okay, so here's a little secret that's really cool. None of your tests are new. It's all the same test that you've had past lives and several times this life.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not new. So it keeps coming back. So when you have that same scenario, and it's not going to be exactly the same, but it's that same trigger, it's that same tikkun that comes up, when you don't react and you're proactive about it, you're going to release what was trapped. Okay, so that's one way to break the klipa. Anyone knows how else to do it?
Pray,
Okay, I love that. Pray, yes. Anything else?
certainty.
Yes.
Certainty.
Good job. Good job. So I'll go through it again. So the test comes, you pass it by not being reactive. Okay? You have to seek out your negativity. Okay? So I want you to think about like how seriously you should take seeking out your negativity. Imagine if I don't know, you're a broker, okay? Something, you have some kind of crazy like $1 million deal. And someone says, I have 10 buyers for you. You have a $40 million house, I have 10 potential buyers. Are you gonna be like, oh, I'll call them tomorrow? No, what are you gonna do? You're gonna write down their names. You're gonna Google them. You're gonna find out who they are. You're gonna call them. You're gonna get commission on $40 million. You're gonna take it seriously. You gotta take your tikkun seriously. Make a list. What is it? What triggers me? What do I need to work on? If someone's gonna offer it to you, don't be like, I really didn't like how she said it to me. I don't think she has my best interest in mind. She's a little, I don't know, she's not my type. I don't really appreciate her opinion. I didn't like my husband's, tone, his whatever, the way he said it. And we all do that. Forget all of that. Cleave to what they told you. They said something negative. Wow, listen. And it's hard. It's hard. When someone comes and says, you did this, you did that wrong. I didn't like how you did this. This offended me. You messed up here. Our first line is, you saw it the wrong way, right? So take ownership, look at it, look deep, think about it, okay? So seek out your negativity, okay? Move beyond your comfort zone. Remember I said that last time, that whatever you do that is seems proactive, that's your nature, helps you keep the light that you currently have. Whatever you do beyond your nature helps you get new light, okay? So always be trying to move beyond your comfort zone, okay? So I'm gonna give an example of this. Is it easier or harder to donate $20,000 or to gamble $20,000?
Donate.
Easier or harder?
Harder.
It's harder. People will gamble whatever, or and they feel like whatever, it was fun. They lost it in an instant. But to say to donate that, to give it to the kanisa or whatever who needs it, it burns a little bit. Why? It's uncomfortable. You're doing something good. You're gonna have that friction. Move beyond it. What do they say? They say, give tzedakah until it hurts. It's when you're in that sweet zone, right? Kind of think about this also when you're doing spiritual actions. Coming to class, hearing a lecture, going to the gym if you find that like spiritual, like I love yoga. For me, yoga is spiritual, right? But there are times where I'm sitting there and I'm holding a pose and the lady's yapping away and I want to be like, shut up. That moment, and I know this is a small example, but that moment is me practicing my patience, right? It's being in that stillness. So that is me moving beyond my comfort zone. Okay, when someone asks you for, here's a crazy one. If someone says, pick me up from the airport, and I'm not saying go pick people up from the airport, okay? But if someone asks that and it's uncomfortable, and you're like, oh, I really don't want to, that's moving beyond your comfort zone. Okay, when you move beyond your comfort zone, you're breaking klipa, you're getting new light. This goes to everything. It's your friendships, it's your relationships, it's your consciousness, it's the way you study, it's the way you, everything in life, move beyond your comfort zone.
Can I challenge you?
Yes.
So, okay, so moving beyond your comfort zone sometimes is people pleasing, so if.
That's personal.
So then.
But it could be the opposite. It could be you're moving beyond your comfort zone and you sit there and you say no to somebody.
So how do we know if it's like going past over
You
boundaries?
learn that yourself. The more you have that relationship with the Creator, the more you do spiritual work, you begin to decipher where that line is, and it's not easy. It's not easy because it's
very, like, murky.
very confusing. What point, you know? And do you guys need an example or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
what if you have boundaries?
You should have boundaries.
Yes.
You should have
That's
boundaries.
how
That's, but it's beyond your comfort zone, right? It's hard for me to say no to people. It's very hard. It's death for me to say no. Okay? And moving forward in life, going beyond your comfort zone is gonna feel like death every single time. Okay? For me to say, I'm sorry, I can't come to your event is death. For me to say, I'm sorry, I can't do this, I can't go there, I can't help you. I get phone calls. For instance, they're like, Sara, can you, I don't know, take my kid with you when you go there? And my kid's like, I don't want to be with them. It's death for me to say no.
But it gets easier each time you do it.
Correct,
Right.
because I'm breaking the klipots, right? And you have to.
No, my when I said boundaries, I meant more like, what if there's like certain individuals that I have set boundaries with that I don't want to be around?
You're
I have
you're
to
entitled
go
to that.
past
No,
that?
you're entitled to that, and you have to figure that out based on, there's like a kind of like a hierarchy of everything. You kind of have to think, is your surrounding light, your personal light, their surrounding light, bread of shame, is this what you want? Do they constantly go over your boundaries? You have to think about all these things. When I'm saying push yourself to be a sharing person, part of being sharing is understanding bread of shame and not giving drugs to a drug dealer. You don't want to enable somebody. That was Kabbalah 1, understanding that. When I'm saying go outside your comfort zone, it's more of a finesse
Like a
right now.
trait,
It's more like,
of your own trait.
yeah, it's
What
like,
about forgiveness? Can that be?
first of all, you should try to work towards forgiveness. You don't have to be friends with them.
Right.
They don't have to be in your life.
Right.
They could be dead or alive, but closing that space is just going to help you. And you can do that by connecting to the spark of light within them. Remember, and understanding that if they could have done better, they would have. And also knowing that this was sent from the light for you.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
Can you look at a situation and say, this is a mitzvah, this person needs me, like if I can't do it, they have no one else? That's very different than people pleasing in my eyes. Would you agree?
It depends on the situation, because we could say that about everybody.
But you truly know when someone has no other options. Like you truly know when they're in need of you versus using you, or
Yeah.
can you look at it that way?
Yeah, because in the situation you're describing, it doesn't sound like there's bread of shame going on, that you're overgiving. Yeah.
So Sarah, you had, and you don't have to answer
Yeah,
this
it's
if
okay.
it touches too personal, but you had once said that your tikkun, for example, with your mom passing away was abandonment.
Yes.
So where do you stretch that? to be alone.
I don't understand what that means.
Like, where
oh,
do you,
where does
where
that?
do you go
Okay,
out
how
of
do I
your
work on
comfort
that?
zone to
Okay,
work on
how do I
that?
work on that?
'Cause I
All
think
right.
those,
So let's
like-
say a friend doesn't include me in something. Right? I'm not included. I feel, oh my God, you're my friend. You abandoned me. Like it hurts on a deeper level than it would somebody else.
Someone else could just not care.
Yes. Yes.
And you stretch yourself in your comfort zone by just sitting with
Being
that
okay
feeling.
with it. Yeah. Being okay with it. They don't have to include me every time. It's okay. You know, maybe they had their reasons. Does it hurt? It's always gonna hurt. It's never not gonna hurt, but it's like the onion. You keep peeling it. Right? Or what else comes up with abandonment? I don't know. Maybe someone not supporting me the way I want them to support me. Maybe if my brother never comes to any of my events. That doesn't bother me, but it could. Do you know what I'm saying? Like anything like that, I don't go and say,
But comfort zone
like,
is
okay.
sitting with it, is what
Yeah.
you're essentially
I
saying.
understand that whatever is coming, like let's use my brother because it's easy. He's an introvert. It's nothing against me. He's not into it. He's not into it. Right? That person who didn't invite me, whatever, they have their own thing going on. And even if they don't like me, that's okay. That's okay, because when you're looking to be liked, you're looking to get something from the other person. You're looking for their approval. You're looking for that whatever, you're seeking something, you're taking something from them. You have to understand, and I'll get into it a little more, that your confidence comes from the creator. Because you could have 1 billion followers, right? What happens in a day? They could all turn on you, right? The whole world could be plotting against you. But if you're with the light, you're untouchable. The light you won't let anything hurt you. Did that answer your question? Okay. Okay, so we said that pain and suffering comes in to kind of get the world back to that 50-50 mark so that you have that free will, okay? I don't know how we got on that tangent. I'm sorry. Give me a minute to go back. Breaking your klipot. So the other way that you break your klipa or the klipot is by having the certainty, like you said. Certainty is so important because when you don't have that certainty, you're immediately fragmented from the creator and from the world, okay? So I'm going to bring this home with people who have known me for years know that I fall apart when my help leaves. I know it sounds silly, okay? But they are my lifeline, okay? They become abandonment issues.
I'm the same way. I'm like, oh my God, if she doesn't show up, then
It's abandonment issues. I need them. I need a pair of boobs in the house. I need it. It's not my kid's nanny. It's my nanny. Okay? It's my emotional support. I need them here. In the past, I would spiral. Okay? Spiral the second they said they were leaving. I'm working to have certainty, to understand that them coming and going is from the creator. I have to put in maximum effort, which is another concept. When you want something to happen, you put maximum effort. So the way I put maximum effort is I put ads on El Clasificado. I put it in every single post. I talk to every single friend. I open every door possible because I don't know what door the car guy is going to come in from. Okay? Do I need to put that much effort? It's whatever effort you think, but you have to do it with certainty. If you do it without certainty, you've kind of cut yourself out. The certainty is what brings in the right doctors. It's what brings in the right lawyers. It's what brings in the team members, right? And that certainty is recognizing that it doesn't matter how many ads I put in or how many people I interview. Ultimately, it's from God. Okay? Okay. I thought you were gonna ask something. We're good? So pain and suffering. You spoke to your partners about something that you learned. Pain comes in our life when we need to go to the next level. When you're not actively seeking out that growth and your klipot, your negativity is tilting in a certain way because of God's mercy, he sends you something to be like, woohoo, wake up. It's like a love tap. It starts off small. When you don't hear it, it gets bigger and bigger, okay? The reason I had you guys talk to each other is one of the things that comes to you before a larger test is you see it in somebody else first. Somebody will come up to you and say, whatever, this happened to me, that happened to me. If you're able to connect to them and feel it through them and learn the lesson through them, you could possibly prevent it from happening to you.
Can you repeat that?
That's crazy.
Yeah. If you learn the lesson you need to learn through somebody else. So who did you share with?
Me.
Okay. You don't have to tell me what you shared, but whatever, give me an example of what you shared. Let's say you shared about,
Or I can give an example.
please.
So I had a dear friend that went through like a life-threatening disease.
Okay.
And I feel like it was really hard on me because I'm such an empath. So I don't think I was there as much as I should have been.
Okay, so let's just pause there. So the fact that someone was in your life, someone probably close to you, I'm assuming, with something like this means there's a propensity for it to happen in your future.
So anyone that is
So,
friends with this person,
Yes. So then, this person kind of, and I hate to say it like this because I remember when my mom was sick, I hated hearing it so much. So I'm sorry to say it. But they kind of took the hit to teach everybody around them a lesson. And if you're able to empathize with them and feel their feelings, okay, and learn the lesson that they're learning with them, you don't need to go through that challenge. They took that hit for you. By them going through that, they cleanse a certain level of klipa, of negativity in the world. And I remember, like, during Shiva, a rabbi said this to me in different words, and I remember being, like, repulsed. So I hope I'm not giving it off in a way like that, and I hope I'm giving it off in a way that we can absorb it, because it's a very, very hard thing to hear.
It's hard to digest because in some instances you see like one family goes through it several times and you're like, well,
Why?
Is it because, are you saying it's because they didn't learn a lesson from
It could be,
that
listen,
person went
we are
through? No, I know
never
nobody
able
knows.
to judge.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened in past lives. We have no idea, right? But the concept that I'm trying to impart, okay, is it's here to get you to a certain place.
okay, can I backtrack?
Yeah.
Now that we know what you're saying, now that we're privy to that knowledge, is there anything we could do now to be proactive, to reverse whatever we did?
You'll have more opportunities, don't worry.
The theory is that these
You'll
things
think
keep
about it.
coming back
Yeah.
to you until you work it out. Like
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
over.
So let's move on. Let it sink in. Let it, yeah. نه اوکی میخوای به فارسی لهجه‌ام بگم okay so this is an example and it's a hard one to say. Last year you were helping baby Michael had a brain tumor, okay, and it was very hard to see, and some people would tell me, don't do this, it's traumatizing for you. You went through so much, and now you're watching, so like, why are you doing this? Forget why I did it. The reason this was in my life, and I saw this, means that there's a possibility that there's a lesson that I need to be learned, that God forbid would be taught through, God forbid, something like that happening. If it's in my life, there's a reason. I need to learn something from it. If I don't learn from it because it happened to him or her, it's going to happen to someone closer and closer and closer until I learn the lesson. Does it fall in?
اینو فهمیدم ولی خب what is your lesson that you were so young I lost your mom or I lost my sister when she was young? What is the lesson on that?
You have to figure it out.
She was like an angel of your sister too, but she was young, like
Can you think of something maybe that you learned, or that anything good or light that came from all of this? Can you think of one thing? And I know it's so hard because I know you would give anything to have them back, and there's no silver lining to something like that.
I don't know. And he خوب بود که lasting it was too much for all of us.
And was she sick?
تو یه سال brain cancer گرفت.
Oh, wow.
She was 57. And she was very, very special in my life. She was my best friend. Love. عشقی که بهش داشتم از همه میدونستن. I was in touch with her. با همه 3 دقیقه پشت تلفن حرف بزن با من دوستان. Unfortunately همه زندگیم ازش دور بودم. ایران بودیم، ازدواج کرد، رفت. اسرائیل بود. It takes a long time که من اومدم آمریکا. رفتم اسرائیل دیدمش. همین چند دفعه که اومدیم و رفتیم، ولی خیلی برای من اسپیشال بود. و خیلی آدم خوبی بود. یعنی اینقدر خوب که اصلا آدم نمیدونه چرا باید همین چیزی بشه. حتی نمیشه تو کار خدا دخالت. قسمت بود. I know all this. ولی خب یه حرفی که میزنی من نمیتونم حذفش کنم.
It's very hard. The pain of losing somebody, and I can't imagine what it's like to lose a sister, because you feel like they're a part of you. It's devastating, and especially when they're young and when you see them suffer. But what Kabbalah teaches is that all these things happen for a reason. We don't see the reason. We're watching like a clip of a really long movie. But at the end, if we had the insight and the consciousness to understand why it happened, we would be like, oh, that's why. And I feel you, because my mom died at 48. I feel you. Do I know why? No. But there's a level in theory, so I believe that it's possible. Can I ever reach it? I'm not sure. Where if I can get to that level, if we could get to that level, we would see why it had to happen. It doesn't make the pain any better. Thank you for sharing.
No, sorry, I got so
No.
much.
Thank you for sharing.
We had to hear it.
Yeah, exactly.
We had to hear it.
We had to hear it.
You know what's crazy is when she was sharing with me, she didn't mention the sickness or what it was. And
I thought it was pretty crazy that I spoke about Michael with the brain tumor.
yeah, and then that, it's like she didn't mention brain part. Like, it's just crazy.
Does it help to think like this is not the end? Like we're in this like world where we think, oh, she died and that's the end. Like,
We don't know.
I
There's a
think,
past
like,
life, there's a next life.
Comfort.
I think,
when you're
yeah.
in the physical world, your comfort is okay. Hopefully they're happy on the next life, but
or that we're gonna be together and this was just something
yeah, I don't know. I'm not
to
there.
go through. No,
Is it fair to say that she completed her tikkun? That
Yeah, so there's a few,
I
we'll
know
talk about
this
that in
makes
a,
it feels better.
we'll talk about that in another class, but people pass either because they learned their tikkun, right? Or they weren't learning it. But their purpose here was finished. They accomplished what they needed to. But you sharing that, it's not just what you went through. The fact that you shared that means we all had to hear that. Whatever pain you went through, we all have to tap in and feel right? So that we don't go through something like that. So when people say, I don't want to hear it, it's too hard for me. I can't control that. Oh, that person went through that because they're addicted. They have addiction problems. That's their genetics. That's because they're weak. When you're doing that, you're shortchanging your own experience.
But how, like in her situation, she's sharing this with us. How do we
Connect.
I saw you. You just did.
That's what it is?
You just did.
So like go home and like pray for her?
You could pray for her. You felt her pain. I saw you.
I still feel it.
You still feel it. So feeling that pain, empathizing, then you don't need to go through that, number one. And then kind of trying to dig in, talking to Sonia June and saying, what do you think the lesson was for you that you went through this? And it's hard because you don't want a freaking lesson. You just want that person back.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really hard to get in there. But if you had to come up with something, even if it sounds dumb, come up with it. Keep thinking about what did you learn from it? It's okay. She's leaving. Sonia June's been with me. So the creator will send you someone. Okay, so you can skip that whole process. So when we say things like it's his genetics, they're weak, when we're judgmental about it, I can't handle it, you feel uncomfortable. It's a sign more for you that you need to hear it, that don't bypass it, don't skip it. Don't skip it. That was heavy. So we said that in life, if you're not seeking to grow, the universe will send things to make you grow. And I'm sure your whole family grew in many ways because of that. I can tell you when we went through a tragedy, we all grew in different ways. Your consciousness opens up. You think about life differently. Maybe you're not as reactive to small stuff because you understand what really matters in life.
Yes.
Right? You grow in different ways. Maybe there's someone, I hate to say this, but I feel like I have to, and I hate thinking like this because it's not positive, but think about an area in your life that you feel like there's like a certain blockage, like maybe someone that you need to forgive, maybe someone that, I don't know, you have issues with, maybe something that you know you need to close the gap with. What would it take for you to close that gap? You don't have to say it out loud. That's your prophecy. Don't wait for that to happen, right? So I'm sure, like everybody has a life, they all have stuff, and I'm sure, I'm sorry I'm using your sister as an example, but maybe your sister, maybe like whatever it was, and maybe it took that illness for her to reconnect and close that gap. What I'm saying is don't wait for that to happen. Don't wait, because if that's what it takes for you to forgive somebody, okay. Okay, page 3. So Satan wants you to have instant gratification. He doesn't want you to think about prolonging the gratification, right? And we're going to talk about pain versus suffering. And we touched on this before too. It's painful to wake up early and go to the gym, but it's suffering to be uncomfortable in your body and have like different ailments, right? It's painful to drive in traffic and show up to a class, right? But it's suffering to dwell and not have higher level consciousness, right? We can all think of a million things, right? It's painful to study, but it's suffering to not have a future, right? You have to decide, you have to choose. Am I gonna go for the short-term pain or the long-term suffering? And Satan wants you to think it doesn't have anything to do with this. Just grab at the enjoyment of life. YOLO, like just do it. And you see those people who are like, you're here to just live and grab at whatever fun comes your way and grab at moments of happiness, right? That's completely off. because two things. One, you're not earning it. Two, you need to go through a process. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to have the fulfillment from that. If you're not working on your vessel, it's like putting fine wine into a dirty styrofoam cup. We've seen people who win the lottery. There's like a show, like lottery winners. What happens to them?
Drug addict, lose their money.
Why? Why?
Easily.
They didn't earn it. They had bread of shame.
But what about in Kabbalah? It was either you or someone
Yeah.
else. It says, don't wait for something. Like, let's say you want to get married, right?
Yeah.
It's like, don't wait for it. Like, live your life, have fun. I just said this to a friend yesterday who got out of a religion. Like, all right, well now let's just have fun until the next one comes.
Okay, there's a difference in what we're saying have fun. I'm not saying don't have fun. I'm saying don't grab at the fun and think your whole life's purpose is the joy comes from these moments of pleasure
Short-term
that I grab.
satisfaction.
Yes,
Short-term.
it really comes from having the vessel so you could hold that joy. Have fun, do it, do everything, build your vessel. Because if you get all of the blessings and you don't have a vessel, you're gonna lose all your lottery money, right? You don't wanna get to that point. You need to be working on your vessel, okay? Suffering is when you win the lottery and you can't hold on to it, right? Getting something that you haven't earned because you haven't built your vessel is torture. And so that's what happens to, imagine people who are born into wealth. Your tikkun could be to be born into wealth and you have issues. Imagine a child who is now 18 and they're given everything. We said this in Kabbalah 1. They have an unlimited credit card, no questions asked. Are they enjoying life? No. They can't give up the money. They haven't earned the money. They're stuck. Okay, so you need to always be thinking about working on yourself, right? So what happens? You get anxiety, you get depression, right? All that stuff is unearned energy. Okay. We're talking about how we have pain and suffering. Another thing that we think of is life is good. Leave me alone. I'm fine. I'm on cruise control. I'm having fun. I'm planning this. I'm planning that. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm buying this. I'm doing that. Leave me alone. Life is good. That's going to take you for a little bit until it crashes, right? It's not that, and we all think this. We think, God, don't get involved. I'm okay. The act of God is the disaster, but it's not true. The blessing is also from God. And if you're not working on your vessel to hold it, you will lose it, okay? We also say, God, send me a message, right? We all are open to messages. I wanna wrap up the class because it's been 45 minutes, but I wanna finish this point that I feel like sometimes I don't hear messages because I'm not into the messenger. So she's nodding, and I'm gonna give an example of this, okay? And it's embarrassing to admit. We were in Israel and we had a tour guide, and she wasn't pleasant visually. And when she would speak, there was like a lot of teeth and a lot of spit, and I couldn't hear a word she was saying. I couldn't hear a word, okay? And we were at the cemetery, the soldier cemetery, Har Herzl or whatever. And Rebecca turned to me and said, oh my God, did you hear? She said this, she said that. I literally couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hear anything, okay? That's a superficial example, but sometimes maybe your friend says it to you and you're like, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about, right? Or your kid says it to you, or your husband says it to you, and they say it in like a mean tone or a sarcastic tone. And you're like, I don't like how you said it. What happened? You just asked for a sign, right? And someone is giving you the message, and you're saying, I don't like the way you're saying it. Are you gonna get more messages or less? More. So like, we gotta be privy to that, right? So the pain comes because last time you didn't pass it, so you have to go through whatever it is again. So whatever my tikkun is and your tikkun is, we didn't learn from last time, so we had to go through a tragic loss this time. If we get work on that this lifetime, maybe next lifetime we don't have to have that kind of loss. right? Or that kind of incident to teach us whatever that is. And it could be anything. It's either a loss, it's a difficult family member, it's anything, right? The pain that comes, the challenge that comes is going to stay until you learn your lesson. So when that comes, you want to learn it quickly. You want to be like, what is the message? What do I need to do? Dig in, dig deep. Sometimes we're like, I don't want to grow and change. I just want to be upset, right? Take that moment, process, be upset. You could still be upset while looking for what you need to look into. Should we stop here? Okay. All right. Next week,